Hi, everybody. I'm Rusty Brown, voice of the Saints, along with head men's basketball coach Chris Faulkner. Straight off of the first loss up at Georgia, it was a tough one for the Saints, 87-53, the final. But, Coach, going up and playing up in Athens, a tough place, obviously, to go and play.
Right.
In all your years coaching and playing here in North Georgia, has this been the toughest road game for you?
Oh yeah, I would think so. You mentioning that to me earlier. Looking back, my sophomore year here at North Georgia as a player, we played University of New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
And they were very good.
Right.
Very good that year. I won't tell you what year that was. That's been a little while ago. And then about 4 years ago, we went and played Alabama Birmingham.
Okay.
And they were just fresh off an NCAA appearance, and they were pretty good as well. We played a little bit better at UAB 4 years ago than we played the other night in Athens. But yeah, we've played some pretty good people. I think Georgia is definitely the best opponent we've played, though, since I've been here.
So the Saints do go up to Athens and Stegman Coliseum and fall by just a few points. However, a pretty good performance, especially from a sophomore sensation. It was a heck of a performance from Tyler Norman, the sophomore guard coach. Big performance from him as he had a couple of buckets, some assists, and some steals as well. Did he have the best performance up in Athens?
I think he did. I think Tyler played really well. He is a younger guy. He's a sophomore. I just feel like he's athletically maybe on par with some of those guys on the floor that Georgia had. He's big, strong guy, runs really well. I was really pleased the way he ran the team. And he had to play a lot of minutes because we were a little bit depleted at the point guard spot. But he really did a nice job. He didn't turn the ball over very much and really got us into what we were looking to do. And I was real pleased with the way he played.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to break down the first half stats as well as Coach Faulkner's mentality heading into Athens. Welcome back to the Chris Faulkner Show. I'm Rusty Brown, joined with head men's basketball coach Chris Faulkner. We're talking about the Saints' opening season loss at the University of Georgia. Coach, it was a tough one to take from a tough opponent in Georgia. However, offensively, this team really came out strong, scoring over 50 points against a tough SEC opponent. Heading into the ball game, what was your game plan heading into this tough opponent in Athens?
We were very concerned about their post play. Obviously they have basically four guys that are 6'10" and around 240, 250. So that was a concern of mine, is just how well we would be able to handle those guys in the interior. And it did give us some problems. That was our focus defensively. Offensively, we wanted to try to spread the floor and try to neutralize some of their athleticism and their size by spreading the floor. Felt like the second half we may have done a little bit better job of that than we did the first half. But that was our biggest concern, was just the size of their athletes that they had.
For the first half for the North Georgia Saints, they go into halftime with trailing 45-20. However, for the Saints, shooting 29% from the floor, 0 for 5 on 3 points, and 2 for 3 from the line. Coach, behind the three-point line, it seemed like you struggled a little bit there in the first half. What adjustments did you make going into the second half there?
Well, we talked to our guys about moving the ball better. I think we, early in the game, we got some pretty good looks, but I think our guys were just so, kind of hyped up about being in that situation and everything, that it was shots that I feel like we should normally make. And we just didn't make those shots. But I also felt like maybe we needed to move the ball a little bit more. I mentioned to you earlier about spreading those guys out. And I felt like in the first half, we didn't make an extra pass or two that we needed to. The second half, we started doing that better. Now, obviously it was still a struggle just because of the defense that Georgia was playing, but we did a better job of that in the second half. But yeah, that was, early on I think we got pretty good looks. We just didn't make them. I attribute a lot of that to just our guys being in that atmosphere for maybe the first time and really not knowing how to adjust to some of that. But after that, I think we kind of settled in the second half, and we saw a little bit more execution, and we were able to knock down some shots a little bit better.
In the first half for the Georgia Bulldogs, they go 64.3% from the field, 20% behind the arc, and 53% from the charity stripe. Coach, throughout the game, 44 points for Georgia inside the paint. We'll get into this here a little bit later on. But in the first half, what did you try to tell your players to limit some of these points inside the paint?
Well, we knew that they would try to get the ball in the post, and I actually felt like in watching the film over the weekend, we did a decent job guarding them when we got it into the half-court situation.
Right.
The majority of their points in the paint came off of transition, and those were things where they would just rebound our missed shots, or maybe we turned the ball over. And, you know, those guys were, I've told people they were a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, and a little bit stronger than we were. And they just got the ball up the floor very quickly, and we weren't able to get back and defend as well as we should have. So there, a lot of the points in the paint came from that. I felt like once we got it in a half court, we did a decent job guarding them in a half court sense. It was just a full court, and the transition is where they got a lot of easy points, a lot of layups from that.
So the Saints go into the locker room trailing 45-20. When we come back here in the Chris Faulkner Show, we're going to talk a little bit about what happened in the second half, as well as what Coach might have said at halftime to get the players going.